able to see comments on the side, but I'll put them on as they come on screen. Hello, everyone.
Oh, yeah.
Good afternoon. It's Saturday, the 18th of March, 2023. And we have nothing better to do with our time on a Saturday afternoon but to jump on Facebook and talk about our passions and our focused interests. So if you're watching this live and you want to give it a little cheeky share, that would be amazing. We're going to share with you some of our plans for some joined up working next week, which I'm very excited about. We've been working together and we'll talk about that in just a second. But if you're watching live and you want to just do a quick flurry of angry faces, that will give our algorithm a bit of a boost. Don't do it for more than 30 seconds. It will kick our RSD really hard. So for those of you who don't know me, my name is Heidi Maver. I'm the founder of EOTAS Matters. I'm also a Sunday Times best-selling author, don't you know? And I'm joined today by the team at No School Fines, which is Maddie Roberts and Susan Liverman, and also Ellie from Square Peg, and Claire from the Not Found in School group. And we've been doing some work together over the past month or so to help really raise the profile of the petition that Susan and Maddie have got running at the moment, which we're going to Downing Street on Tuesday to deliver. You'll see in the comments, I have posted a link to the petition. It's really snazzy little link there. But if you can't see that, just go onto your search engine and search Change Petition No School Fines. It will pop up. Before we came on, we were like 30 signatures off 250,000. So I'll check it in a minute and we might do a live celebration as we hit 250,000. But let's do some quick introductions, shall we? We'll go around the room and you can say a little bit who you are, what you do, and why you're involved in the campaign. And we should probably start with Susan or Maddie, which of the two of them wants to go first. Go on, no pressure. One of you decide.
Go on, Maddie. Is Maddie, are you there?
Go on, Susan, you go.
All right, I'll go. Okay.
We both said that
I'm
at the same
Susan.
time.
I'm one half of the dynamic duo petition team with my partner in crime, Maddie Roberts. I don't really know what to say. We have been running the petition for about a year now. Maddie and I met in EOTAS Matters when we were kind of going through the process of securing or evidencing EOTAS for both of our children. We came together. I think we'll probably talk about a bit more about that on the petition. Sign the petition if you haven't already. And yeah, I'm excited to be here.
Amazing.
Over to Maddie.
Yep. And I'm the other half of that. So I'm Maddie. I've got my son who's thriving on EOTAS now, and obviously have a passion for making change and making it a bit easier for other parents and children and parents not being punished.
Oh, might have lost you, Maddie. I don't know if it's because I've done the high-tech thing and shared the screen.
Did you just blink? I swear you just blinked. She's back.
Who? She's back.
Maddie. I swear you just blinked, Maddie.
Yeah, I'm here. I'm still here. I'm always here.
So, okay, cool. So that's Susan and Maddie, and they are the people responsible for this incredible campaign. And why and how did you connect? Was it how did it happen that you just you don't just get in someone's inbox and say, let's do a petition and get 250,000 people to sign it? Or do you? Is that what you did?
Well, yeah. Well, having met Maddie, I think we're both the kind of people that do that. However, there was a bit before that where we didn't just randomly do that. So I was around the main groups at the time, as you do when you start this journey, or if you're lucky enough to start this journey and find groups like Not Found in School, EOTAS Matters, various other groups. So I was the stuff really got bad for us about 2 years ago now. And when stuff gets bad for you and you're just going through that process, you're not really in the mind to for activism. However, going through that period, I kind of said to myself at the time, I'm like obviously there's already people doing stuff, but I agree, this needs to change. And it was just like a little kernel. So then a year later, when things were a bit more settled, not entirely kind of all sorted, but a bit more settled, I started kind of seeing kind of what other people were doing, and I came across this concept of like an open letter, and like writing a letter and like getting people to organisations to put their kind of name to it. So it's just kind of that really, and then I just wrote something, put it on EOTS Matters, put it in a couple of places I think actually, and then ding, it always takes one person to create a movement, I think, and that person was Maddie. She went, "We're doing something with this." And I think by that morning, I was on the phone to her. We were talking to Kenza. And then, but quite quickly it became, I was still toying with it, like, should it be an open letter? But quite quickly it was like, right, petition. And I think that having spent kind of a year at this point in this sort of send space and activist space, or observing campaigns, I'd noticed a lot of good petitions, like government petitions, with really good campaigns, but because send is kind of a marginalised issue, not really getting traction in the time that you need to for a government petition. So actually we decided to go with Change, and launch a Change Petition, because it can live and breathe as a campaign until you have won your petition. So, and also you can contact your people that have signed the petition as well. So there were lots and lots of good reasons to go with Change, and then I'm really glad we went with Change, because at a certain point, I can't remember how many signatures we'd got at the time, but Maddie and I had started to pick up a bit of press, and we were tweeting and things like that, and at that point Change got in touch with us to offer us some campaign management support as a petition that's got the potential to succeed. And then we've just kind of gone from strength to strength. So we started off with like something needs to change, and a kind of rough intention. And over time, we've honed that into like knowing what we're doing with the petition and how that should be. So yeah, it's been a journey.
Amazing. So Claire, I've forgotten your surname. I'm so sorry.
It's Barrett.
Claire Barrett from Not Finding School. So where was the connection with Not Finding School? Because I know that Maddie and Susan are both team admins as well in Not Finding School, isn't there? So how did that develop, and why is this important to Not Finding School particularly?
Well, I mean, I personally connected through Susan and Maddie through as I became an admin on Not Finding School last summer. So that was kind of my first introduction. But I think I'd come across the petition way before that, and I know that I think Beth Bodycott, who set up Not Finding School, and Ellie of our very own Square Peg, who's here, they were, I think, just sort of helping. That they were trying to set up the 3 asks at the time, and so I think got involved and connected through that way. So as for why it's so important for Not Finding School, I mean, our group now is 38,500 strong, of families who have children who are not finding school, and all too often we hear that rather than getting support for their children and finding a suitable alternative, it's the route all too often goes down threats of fines and prosecution, with some of those families actually ending up in that situation as well, which is just tragic, because it takes us away from supporting our families rather than we're having to fight all sorts of battles to try and get anywhere. And the threat of fines is what's the point of putting sanctions in place? It should be support all the way.
Yeah. And I know that, I see it in the Not Finding School group pretty much on the daily. Someone will be posting in the group saying, I've just had a notice to prosecute, or I've just had a fine or a fixed penalty, or it's really, this is not like a one-off thing. It's something that happens across the board pretty much daily for families like ours whose children have barriers to attendance, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And we've actually just launched a survey as well that's talking about that, just looking at unauthorised absences to see what the reasons actually are behind those. Just because schools are marketed as unauthorised doesn't mean there's not actually a legitimate reason behind that. And one of the questions in that survey is asking about whether or not, so not only are the parents being threatened, but the children are often being told as well that their parents are going to go to prison, that they're going to be fined, that they'll be taken away from their families, all because these children can't go to school. And I think at the moment it stands at just over 50%. I think it's around 55-56% of the 500 people that have completed the survey already have said that their children have been told that their parents will go to prison.
Yeah, my son was told that in front of me.
Yeah,
Pretty
my daughter
shameless.
told it as well. Yeah.
And finally, last but by no means least, the glorious Ellie Costello. So Ellie, or I'll let you do your own introduction, but Ellie's the director, Square Peg, that's Ellie's thing. Do you want to talk about how and where Square Pegs fit in this, and maybe just flesh out a little bit about the 3 asks as well, which ties into the campaign, although it's not part of the petition itself?
Yeah, so nice to be here. Thank you for hosting, Heidi. So I suppose on a personal level, our non-attendance journey started in 2014, so I'm a bit of a veteran. And I joined Square Peg in 2019, back into 2018. Fran and I were having chats and she was already on the go. And her non-attendance journey was 10 years prior to mine. So I'm 9 years in and she's, 19 years since. And understandably has now retired and run free and gone to live in the land of ambrosia, really, where she's got grown up children.
She's not dead. It's not like she's gone to the farm. She's not dead. She's just retired.
she's retired because her children have actually, survived. Have left university, are working, and so far so good. Are healing and living as adults. So just brilliant. Not finding school was my saviour, really. It was I kind of joined really early on, and thank heavens for social media. So I was already on Facebook sort of around 2015 trying to find support, and it's just been exponential, hasn't it, the growth, but thank goodness, because it has all brought us into the same space. And I remember when I was remembering, actually I was looking back because Susan messaged me when the petition idea was coming up, and everyone is always really keen to do a government petition because you get a question asked in the House. But as Susan rightly said, what happens is you don't have access to your petition, to your signatories, and also it's a bit of a damp squib. You get to 100,000 signatures, and it's just kind of like. So, but I remember just with hearing you talk about it, Susan. She messaged me and she said, "I've been contacted by this person called Maddie Roberts, and she's this fireball of energy. This is going to be amazing."
Yeah.
So yeah, and it has been absolutely extraordinary. The whole sort of kismet of the energy and that petition is so flipping timely in landing after lockdown, when attendance has been sort of escalated into this national agenda, quite rightly so. Fran's experience 19 years hence, it's something that has needed to be raised and discussed and seen and unpicked, because it's not just flipping truancy and feckless antisocial families and all the rest of it. It's a very complicated and intersectional subject. So so we've been kicking around. I think Square Peg's in its fourth or fifth full-time year.
Oh,
and so
no,
does
go on.
Oh,
keep
you
going.
got me.
We lost you for a second. Keep going.
I can hear you. Sorry. So Square Peg's been around for now. It's in its fourth or fifth full-time year. We just tend to try to affect change at a national level. Last year, all of us here really got into parliamentary activity and lobbying, which was like a complete baptism of fire for everyone. Following it on Hansard's, contacting Lords, trying to get questions raised. And actually the schools bill was this brilliant landing target that everybody could focus on. And so what we were seeing was a sort of national awakening within mainstream press. At the same time as last September, we had a story in Channel 4 News. We were starting to get a lot more of a conversation around mental health and attendance, which was good, rather than it being antisocial. What's the thing that when they call youths delinquency. It used to be framed around delinquency, which is just such an unsavoury, untrue sort of thing. So it's been brilliant to kind of meet these two amazing women and watch it grow, because it's just been like the most extraordinary 12 months that's really sort of catalysed the sort of energy as we are seeing a current government really sort of shoot itself in the foot perpetually. And we're looking towards a general election. So there's lots going on. And last summer, as a result of lots of sort of ideas coalescing, Fran and Beth wrote to Nick Gibb in 2019, because he was Minister for Schools then, and he's Minister for Schools now, but wrote to Nick Gibb in 2019 off the back of a legal challenge where Not Finance School and Square Peg tried to take on the DFE and tried to take on the attendance and registration system. And we tried to get as far as the High Court with a legal challenge. And at that time, the response to non-attendance was pretty awful, as it is now. But there was less reason, I think, or duty or conversation in the corridors of power, less recognition that children's mental health was something that was a problem. It was still la la la, don't talk to us about CAMS or SEND or anything like that, even though everybody, SEND National Crisis had their march in 2019. There was lots of activity going on in 2019. Various legal challenges, SEND Action did another one. So there was loads going on. And then, of course, lockdown and all the rest of it, attendance became this focal point, which is great. Partly we like to think because Square Peg was sort of rattling cages in 2019. And so last summer, we took the sort of focus of the triage letter that Beth and Fran and the plan had sent to Nick Gibb in 2019, and sort of it's coalesced, sort of synthesized some of those elements into 3 asks. And the first ask was, let's end truancy laws, because what we saw in the House of Lords last year was something really incredible, which was a really interesting debate about why, what it is about truancy laws in particular that's harmful. So they're outdated. They are based from another era, another century. They're inappropriate. If a child is at risk of harm, then we have safeguarding and child protection. We all know it doesn't actually change behaviour. So the first 3 asks that we sort of collaboratively came up with was ending truancy laws. Then the next one, sort of because that's the sort of ultimate aim. And then the sort of steps to get there are an attendance code of practice, which was something that we were thinking about and talking about because we knew that we had new guidance published on the horizon last summer, and Not Finance School was seeing an enormous amount of traffic and uptake of membership and parents saying, from September we'll be really strict on attendance. And so from May last year, actually, the activity on Not Finance School was unprecedented. I mean, it's always busy on Not Finance School. Previous years, it's 800 to 1,000 membership signups, and suddenly we were seeing, at that point it was 1,000 to 1,200, and now it's sort of in excess of that is what is
a month.
A month. Yeah. So not everybody gets through. So there's a vetting that the incredible admin team do, but there is, and so by September last year, we saw a 70% increase in membership. Suddenly, I mean, I've got a nice data sheet that I can share. We can add it to the show notes or whatever, which shows the exponential growth of Not Finance School, but a massive leap last autumn. So we were sort of thinking about, okay, well, an attendance code of practice, what does it bring us, and sort of thinking about why it's a good thing to have, and thinking about attaching it to the face of the schools bill, so there's an opportunity there to get it through the House, but also it stops all this sort of tinkering around with DFE guidance that isn't co-produced, isn't evidence, isn't robust, And so we were using the SEND Code of Practice as a precedent because there's a lot of confidence in the SEND Code of Practice. It's not a perfect document, but it is a document that many of us have referred to as individual parents. Professionals use it. It's held up in tribunal and court and all the rest of it. So that felt like a really necessary step to getting towards sort of ending truancy laws. And then the sort of measure in the first step would be a mental health and wellbeing registration code. So we were, and there's lots of reasons why we want that. It's parity of esteem to mental health. It gives schools agency to actually authorise mental ill health or declining wellbeing. It's a pastoral flag. It separates out the data. There's lots of things that it will do. And then come January, was the attendance call for evidence inquiry. And so we put all of that into the document to the attendance inquiry and included all of the original work that Beth and Fran had already done, with lots and lots of sort of other ideas to government. For example, let's not have attendance welfare and enforcement. Let's work towards key workers that are there to unblock the systems around the child and family, rather than put the parent on a parenting course and put the child into a sort of nurture hub to mindfully outthink their way out of the barrier to attendance. So yeah, that was a waffly answer, but that's where we've netted out.
That's your special skill, though, Ellie. What you do give an excellent waffly answer, and it's always full of golden nuggets. I'm really disappointed that you didn't use the phrase "pernicious creep," because you always use that phrase, and it's one of my favorite. And like, if you were going to front a rock band, I think they would be called "Pernicious Creep."
I was saving it till later. It's all right.
Now you'll say it, and I'm like, she said it. So that's amazing. So what you can see is we've got this really joined up approach, but the big thing for next week, the big push for next week, is the petition delivery. So Susan and Maddie have arranged with the team at Change and myself and Claire and Maddie's young person to go to Downing Street and to deliver the petition. I've just looked. We're on 244,976 signatures. So we're 24 off 250,000. If you have not yet signed it and you are watching this, please go and sign it now. We will be waffling for another 20 minutes at least. You're not going to miss anything, except maybe Maddie saying pernicious creep, and I'll make it into a little snippet and I'll put it on YouTube so you don't miss it, because it's always glorious. But yeah, please go and sign it, and please share this video, because if we could hit 250,000 before the end of this live, that would be bang on. So plans for Tuesday. I don't know which of you, Maddie or Susan, want to talk about this, because we are inviting parents and carers and interested adults and supporters to come and join us for the walk. Does one of you want to talk about that and what the plan is on Tuesday?
Yeah, Maddie, do you want to do it, or do you want me to do it? I don't mind. I'll go. I don't know if
you're better at knowing where we're meeting and where we're going. London's not my place.
Does she just sit dead still and hope that we all think she's frozen?
I was going.
Go on, Susan.
Yeah, so we are meeting. So if you want kind of full details, we've got an event page. So come and see the event page. But in brief, we are meeting between 2 and 2:30 down in London, in Westminster. It's the George V statue. It's just about half a mile from Downing Street. So we're going to kind of gather there, meet each other, have a bit of a chat, knowing all of us, mill around a bit, and then we are about 3 o'clock, because the petition delivery is booked in for 3:30. So about 3, because we're going to give ourselves lots of time to wander down. We'll start walking down to Downing Street. So there's full details of the route, and there's a frequently asked question on the actual event page itself. So go and check that out if you're kind of curious but a little bit nervous and thinking about what about this. Just go and see those frequently asked questions, because hopefully they will cover aspects of kind of coming. We're sort of saying the delivery walk itself, obviously it's taking place in term time. We would prefer it to be kind of adults. It's aimed at parents and carers, really. And yeah, so obviously it's up to kind of individual people to make that choice, but it isn't specifically aimed at kind of bringing children to it. So yeah, so we'll kind of
school to come. Definitely don't.
Absolutely not. No, definitely not. Yeah, we will never ask people to do anything that puts them at risk of a fine or prosecution. That is absolutely not what we're about. We're about preventing that, and we're about stopping the government from doing that. So we would not encourage that. Yeah, and then at about 3 o'clock, we will wander down and we'll make our way to Downing Street, and we'll go to the gates of Downing Street. And at that point, the petition delivery group will go through the gates of Downing Street and we'll deliver our petition. It doesn't take very long. We'll go knock the door, see if we can see the cat, hand the petition. I think we've got a big box.
We've got several big red boxes, I think, haven't we?
I'm so excited.
Yeah, I know.
I think so. I don't know. Like, it's this box, like these boxes. So I have these boxes, and then I think someone opens the door. I don't think it's Rishi. I think it's like a police person. They'll open the door, and then we give them these boxes. They take them away. I still think we should put copies of your books in there. That'd be hilarious. That'd be great. Have a book, and then we kind of make our way, and then we'll wander back to the statue. And maybe do a couple of speeches or be just chatting, and then make our way onwards from there. So it should be good. It will be nice to like meet people before. We've had a lot of support over the last year, obviously, in this kind of community. A lot of us are in like similar groups, so it'd just be really, really, obviously it's London, so it's not easy for everyone to get there, but it's just gonna be really nice to meet people. And like, I met Maddie actually for the first time. When did we meet? When was that? It feels like
yesterday. Thursday,
wasn't it?
Yeah, Thursday. So yeah, but yeah, it was
Thursday.
It was so,
I'm glad you know, Claire.
Yeah, Friday feels like a lifetime ago. But yeah, it was really nice to meet, and yeah, so we'll be doing that. But like I said, check out the delivery event page, and if you have got any frequently asked questions, or if you have got any questions that are not covered by that, just get in touch. I would say that we've got stewards. We've kind of considered safety aspects and things like that. But if you've got any questions, just get in touch. But yeah, and the weather. Someone just put a thing about the weather, which was amazing and so useful, because that is the one thing I haven't checked just
11
yet.
to 14 degrees and cloudy. That'll do.
Oh, that's perfect, because I've got weather in my risk assessment. You see,
that's light jacket weather, perhaps a cardi,
yes.
A little bit of layering.
Yeah. I think so. You won't need your sun cream. It's fine.
We won't be too hot in our hoodies. We'll be fine.
No, yeah.
Amazing. So
we're expecting good press, aren't we? We should let people know we are expecting good press, and a few peers and MPs.
Oh yeah, people popping out to say hello. Various, hopefully, a couple of our MPs might be around. So we've got a bit of coverage that Maddie has arranged.
I'm going to go and chat to my MP afterwards.
We're going to really basically, there's going to be a lot of noise, isn't there? So we plan to, for those who can't
I don't think my MP wanted to come out for a picture.
For those that are able to join us, we know that, it's London, and really, who wants to go to London? Let's be honest. But we know that it's not entirely accessible. That's not on us. That's where the government choose to position themselves. But we will live stream from the event. We'll take plenty of pictures. If you're coming and you bring your book and you want to get a picture rubbing the railings with me, I'm up for that. Genuinely, I'm going to do that. Ruth says there's no chance of the Kettering MP showing his face. But what we have also got, like, this isn't something we've done, but a parent from Not Finding School kind of has jumped alongside this and done an amazing mini campaign for some parent engagement, and you'll see it doing the rounds. Who can explain that? Claire, can you explain that a little bit?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, so it was Nikki, one of the Nickies in Not Finding School, and she posted, I think it was Monday or Tuesday, about she kind of had this sort of wistful dream that was never going to happen of everyone everyone's email landing in. It was actually, I think she was suggesting it landed in Rishi Sunak and Gillian Keegan's inboxes at the same time on the same day. Just sort of taking action to raise awareness. And then within a couple of days, she put together this gorgeous bit of artwork that says at the top, Save Our Kids, I think it's called, or Help Our Kids, that's what it's called. So yeah, Help Our Kids, and just to explain to MPs why there's such a need for attention to this problem. why so many children are out of school, why threatening with fines and prosecution is such a poor idea, and just people just to tell their story basically. And I think for a lot of us, telling our story, even if it doesn't really get anywhere, is just so validating. It's so important to kind of just to know that. I mean, certainly I'm not finding school. When a lot of people post, and everyone goes, "Oh, it's so great just to not feel alone with this." That's the one thing you're told, that that you're unusual, that this doesn't happen to other families, and that's a very common thing. Certainly, I was told that by school. I don't know about you guys, but it's like, oh, well, we just don't know what to do because we've not ever had this before.
We've never seen this before.
Lies.
You sit on a throne of lies.
And so I think it's a really powerful action. I think as well for people to be able to do something that can't come into London. So just to email. So that's at the moment set for Tuesday between 12 and 1 o'clock for people to email. On the poster it says about emailing Rishi Sunak and Gillian Keegan. We're suggesting that it's actually QMP. Include Gillian Keegan by all means, who's the Secretary for Education. Include the Shadow Secretary, Stephen Morgan, the Shadow School Secretary. Let's just let's bombard them. And at the moment, I'm just putting together a bit of a sort of template email so that you can structure around that, and then set the alarm for 12 o'clock on Tuesday to hit the send button. You can get it ready beforehand, save it as a draft, and 12 o'clock. Let's get all those inboxes filling up for those MPs so people can actually see the scale of the problem and that we're not alone in this.
I love that there'll be like a ping, 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 ping.
Can you imagine?
Just when Karen from accounts is coming back off her lunch. What's going on? So what I was going to say as well is that so that's happening. So we're asking you to do that, and thank you to Nikki who did that. And then we're also going to do something for you following the petition that's like this happened this week, and look at all this press that hopefully is going to happen next week, and give you some briefing notes on how to have a conversation in more depth with your MP about the issues around attendance. I think one of the things that Ellie's taught me actually is that I thought naively, and I think possibly a lot of people think this, that you just write to your MP and then they go, oh, this is interesting, and then they get a question in the House of Commons or whatever, and then things change. But actually, the way the political year works and the way the diaries work, there are very small windows of opportunity to get things tabled for conversations, and it's actually can be quite difficult to garner support from your MP unless it's a hot topic. So what we're trying to do is get a bit of heat under this, knowing that attendance is a big talking point at the moment. There's new stuff coming out from the Children's Commissioner all the time. We've got frickin' Michael Gove saying that he thinks that families whose children are out of school should have their child benefit cut. Thanks, Mike. Good plan. Yeah, good one, Michael. Don't get me started. Sorry, I'm too late. I'm already gone. What a bell end. Anyway, but yeah, it's very much a conversation at the moment. There's a big push on attendance, and it's our families at the hard edge are feeling it. And as we're heading into a build up to a general election, which is coming, we just don't know yet when, issues around education is going to be one of the key talking points for the election. So that's why now, and that's why this is so timely. And we know from when we did the big push on the schools bill, the feedback that we got from the higher ups was, we've never seen such a level of engagement in a consultation. And that's because we were able to mobilize the parenting community, particularly the SEND parenting community, but actually the home ed community and other marginalized family groups who have challenges and barriers to attendance. And we made a difference. It was noticeable. So that's what we're trying to do. So do you want to add anything to that? Ellie, Susan, Claire, have you got any thoughts around framing this more?
I was going to say, I think you're absolutely right. I think, we're all learning on a bit of a baptism of fire, but I think the thing I want to get across to everyone is that, well, firstly, I want to thank everyone for recommending Not Finding School, EOTUS Matters, Square Peg, Maddie and Susan, if you wrote to the attendance inquiry, which is live and happening now. And I've spoken to the office, and they were really, really, really they sat up and took note, because that call for evidence for the Education Select Committee attendance inquiry was not a public inquiry. It's just a select committee inquiry, and they don't usually have that kind of public engagement. But the fact they did was really made them sit up. So I want to thank everybody for doing that, because it just goes to show that our voices and our children's experiences are hold value and weight, I suppose, hold importance. And same goes for the Send Green paper. I mean, I remember what you were doing for that, Heidi, as well. And there were 6,000 pieces of evidence that was submitted for that. And it's the same, it's the same sort of teams that work on the committees that work on the government reviews. And when I spoke to them, they were just like, there's so much evidence and they've got to filter it, they've got to publish it. So it is, flooding a system, but in the best possible way. With regard to this particular moment after this, so what this petition achieves is not only 250,000 signatures, is an extraordinary amount.
250,000. Like, hang on a minute. 250,000, Susan and Maddie.
Yeah.
And Susan and Maddie were like, we remember when we first got our first 6, and Susan's got a screen grab of Maddie saying, somebody signed a petition, haven't you? 250,000.
It's extraordinary. I love it because it's strength of opinion. It's just it's strength in numbers. I always think of ants, with the ants and the grasshoppers kind of thing. And this is exactly another case in point where I think that we have an opportunity collectively. So right now, the information that I'm getting is that election manifestos are pretty much sewn up, but they're stuff can be added, but they've kind of written them, all groups, parties. And so if we do want a pledge in a manifesto, like end truancy laws, attendance code of practice, whatever it is that you want in there, put it in there, have it on your topic of conversation to eyeball your MP with. And you don't have to ask for all the things that we're recommending. You can go and talk to your MP about your situation, and you can ask for the one thing out of everything that really speaks to you. Or you can say, there's a suite of asks, and actually I support them all, and I'd like, I'm not going to vote for you unless you do something with it. Because right now, I don't know who's seen their MP when we're sort of mid-administration and the MPs are nice and comfortable and they really don't care if you exist or not, because they're sort of, MPing in Westminster. There are some good ones who really care about their constituents, but there are other ones. This period in time where we know, it's highly likely that we're going to have a change in party. And that last happened, that last happened in 2005. Is that right? And 1997. So, this is like more than a decade spans when this particular opportunity takes place. And so here we are in March. We've really got sort of before, and bear in mind that MPs go on summer holiday in July. Write to them now in the hope that you get a meeting, a constituency appointment in April, May or June, or if you're lucky in September, because their diaries are busy. The number of constituents they're seeing about holes in the road or NHS or whatever it is, or street crime or whatever. The MPs are busy people. So right now, ask to eyeball them, share your experience, and dangle your vote, and tell them what you want them to do. So be really clear. And I think between Claire's update, your template letter, Maddie, Heidi, the energy around Maddie and Susan's petition, they're wanting guidance to be addressed, and guidance is a big part of what's going on right now. We've got statutory guidance coming in September. So although it sounds like there's a lot to sort of hold in your head, just try and take away one nugget. And if you can have a conversation with your MP and share your lived experience, because so many people who aren't in education honestly can't conceive just how bad it is for children and families.
Yeah.
And attendance is indiscriminate. It can happen to the most vulnerable, or it can happen to the most privileged. You know, mental health in our children, it doesn't matter how much money you've got in the bank, although, you know, if you're spinning more plates, then you are more vulnerable. But the point is that it's an indiscriminate problem and it can affect anyone. And so one of the things we're trying to talk about is, you know, this is a problem that can affect any family at any time. Nobody is immune to it.
Yeah.
And if we don't actually put our arms around it and support our children and families and stop, you know, trying to beat us with bigger sticks, we're just going to see more of us fall out and harmed, really.
Yeah. And we do know that, you know, I mean, I know it's an obvious thing to say, but just to really be super clear, this isn't just us being a bit cross about the fact that people want to fine and prosecute us. You know, like, we do know that that does not work. And actually, it makes things worse for families. So if you've got a child who has barriers to attendance and they maybe are in a mental health crisis, or they've maybe got a disability, or there's another barrier to attendance that means that they're not able to be in school, the threat or the actual action of a fine or a prosecution puts that family under more pressure and makes no difference to their capacity for that child to be in school. Like, it's just not a sanction that will ever work. Because, in fact, even if you get a situation where a child responds in the way that you would like them to, or a family responds in the way they'd like you to, whereby they try harder to get that child into school, in many instances that will cause more damage in the mid to longer term. Whereby if we've got children who have mental health challenges and who have barriers to attendance around particular needs, and we force them into an environment that traumatizes them, we will do more damage and we will increase the risk of significant harm to those families, not just financially. So it's really important that we're really clear about this. Is not just a group of, I mean, it is a group of pissed off mums, and, like, you know, mess with us, we'll show you how pissed off we are. But it's not just that. This is a much bigger, this is, in essence, this is discriminating against and punishing families of disabled children, and it's not acceptable, and that's why we feel so passionately about it, right? Someone's saying in here, they're just asking about the flyer, which we have already spoken about, Jeannie. Yes, there is a flyer doing the rounds that is like, email your MPs on Tuesday. Yes, we support that action. Email your MP on Tuesday at 1 o'clock. Follow the instructions on that. An email to your MP and copy in Rishi and Thingy Keegan,
Gillian and Stephen Morgan.
Copy in Kevin Keegan. He might have something to say about it. Is Kevin Keegan still alive? And sorry, Kevin, if you are. And someone else said here, which I think is actually a really good point. Where is it? Ruth says, attendance code of practice, I think, feels more palatable to the right than ending truancy laws. And it is about knowing what you think might sit well with your MP. If you know what your MP is like, you might want to be a bit more strategic about what you might bring to them as a conversation. For example, if you have a Conservative MP, you might not want to go in there all guns blazing saying, you need to do something because I'm a Labour supporter and I'd never vote for you anyway. You know, you've got to kind of think.
Yeah, so on that's a really good point. Sort of lobbying 101 is find out a little bit about them. You may not like their values or anything, but speak to their core values. And the core values for conservatism, for example, is independence and, you know, not relying on the state kind of thing, but basically the right to independence and live without, you know, surveillance and harm and all the rest of it. So one of the really good thing that most MPs will get on board with is, you know, I want my child to be able to go to school. I want my child to be happy. I want my child to be learning and getting a good education. What MP is going to go, no? You know, so speak to those kind of core values so that you're getting the sort of nodding dog syndrome and then saying, okay, so we're in agreement here. So here's what I'd like you to do. And with a general election coming up and this being a swing seat or whatever, you know, you scratch my back and I'll scratch yours kind of thing. It's kind of where you want to go. And equally, if you've got an MP on the right, then it's, you know, a social justice issue. It's, you know, you can speak to different things. Manira Wilson for Lib Dems, their messaging is really interesting at the moment. Greens. So just kind of do a tiny bit of homework. Grit your teeth if you really don't like their voting history, but try and speak to those sort of something that everyone can agree to, if that makes sense.
Yeah, we will when we send out the briefing notes, we'll make sure that you get what you need so that you know, we're not going to tell you what to actually say, but we'll make it as easy as possible for you, so that you, because we know that, you know, the hardest thing when you're in the middle of this, especially if you're in crisis as a family now, it's really difficult to just keep to do anything. So we're trying to keep it as simple as possible for you as we can. We are 19 signatures off 250,000. Come on, people, please give this a share. This feels like some kind of like telethon. If you pledge now, if you sign in the next 10 minutes, then one of us will sit in a bath of beans.
Do Maddie and Susan get like a gold medal? You know, I got 250,000 signatures on Change.
We should do. I will give ourselves a gold medal for that.
Yeah.
We definitely
What I
will.
wanted to ask you, Susan, was when you talk about winning the petition, what does that mean?
Yeah, that's a really good point. So that's one of the key like ways that change work, is that there's always an ask. It's always really important actually to have an ask, and you mentioned that in kind of when you're talking to your MP, you always like leave them with something to do. There's always kind of a question or something that you want, and that is true of the petition. Now, we support the 3 asks. We definitely support the 3 asks. They are kind of strategic objectives. They will probably carry on. I mean, they will carry on probably into the next government as well, whatever administration we have. What we're trying to do with the petition is maybe call for like tactical change. In a sense, we're kind of bringing the problem. This is what's happening to a group of like marginalised families. The government response to us has always been, the official responses that Maddie and I have had from sort of letters, etc., has always been the attendance guidance isn't intended to penalise kind of families that are on waiting lists for CAMs, etc., etc. It's not intended to do that. And our feedback is, both as from our own experience and from what we're seeing in Not Finding School as moderators, is, well, it is doing that. Yeah. And then our ask is basically, you need to either change the attendance guidance then, because clearly it is not doing what you want it to do, government, or you need to bring in an attendance code of practice. And obviously there's an ask. That's one of the 3 asks. So we're like really, really supportive. We've always said from day one of reading that attendance guidance that support is not well defined in the attendance guidance. We have always said that. So I don't really care how they do it. They need to either define support really well in the existing attendance guidance, they need to bring a code of practice in, or they need to add more information. They've just published kind of a document that kind of sits alongside attendance guidance, which is around kind of managing like mental health absence. I'm kind of like, it's up to you how you do it, but we're sort of showing you that there's a problem here and we're not going to go away. And even after the petition, so it's so exciting, the buzz around the petition delivery, and it's so exciting to go and deliver it, but the delivery point is not the end of it. It's not the end of that campaign, unless kind of an immediate change happens, which would be amazing. But really that campaign will continue until we're sort of listened to, really, and there is an acknowledgement that actually this attendance guidance is punishing vulnerable families. And that might mean that there's some tactical changes that don't go the whole way, that they don't cover all marginalised people, but we'll chalk that up as a win, and then we'll go again for the next. So it's sort of slide. There's this. I see it as a massive problem, and it's like slicing off bits and kind of like and breaking that problem down into kind of smaller chunks, if you like. So yeah.
I don't think any of us are under any illusion that this is not like a massive.
I think.
Go on, Maddie.
No, I was just going to say that was one of the first things I can remember Ellie saying to us. Actually, was just remember it's a marathon. I was like, now it's sort of like, you know, coming together, and you realise that these things take a lot of time. But I think as well with parents contacting their MPs is sort of like a good idea, and I think petition delivery is also like to raise that awareness to the government that, as we know, you know, fines and prosecutions are not the absolutely last resort. You know, and we get hundreds, thousands of families telling their stories or emailing us to say, you know, it's got to this point, we've tried to engage with their support, it's not worked, they're threatening to fine. That needs to be a clear message that we're giving the government as well, is actually and say, oh, we'll find some prosecution should be used as a last resort. But in reality, that's not what we're seeing as happening. So I think that's maybe a good point, even for parents that haven't been fined, just to mention to MPs or, to bring that awareness around that actually it's not a last case scenario.
No. And actually, I think what's really difficult is that schools are in a very hard position because they're confused about what their guidance is and what should and shouldn't be happening. And, when you've got, for example, multi-academy trusts, sometimes the stuff is coming from the top and it's trickling down. And when it gets to the individual sites, it's coming over as much more kind of like hammer to crack a walnut kind of. That's not the right phrase, is it? Whatever that is, the big thing to deal with the small thing. Can't remember the analogy or whatever that is. What is that? Anyway, that
sledgehammer.
Thank you very much.
But it is also that push down you see as well, isn't it? Like from, but it's that bit from the top where we see, they're pushing, the government's pushing that onto local authorities are pushing that onto schools are pushing it onto parents, and then ultimately parents are pushing that onto children. And I think from a personal situation, like from where we came from and how that broke our bond and how that's taken a long time to build that trust back up, for me, that's one of the most heartbreaking things that I find really difficult about reading the stories and the comments that we get through finding school is parents, I've been in that position where parents believe that is what you need to do. And I think that's just like you say, that's just, I'm having one of your moments now. It's where that pressure is just being sort of filtered down all the way to a child that ultimately needs help and support and validation. And they're actually the ones that are feeling the real brunt of that not being that.
They're at the hard end.
They're not being heard, And
I think
Harley said to me the other day when we were talking, he was made me feel like trash.
Yeah.
I think Heidi particularly likes it when I do like a historic perspective. So if you'll indulge me, the truancy laws were sort of, I'm going to paint you a story. So the truancy laws were effectively the child catcher, right? So think of the child catcher in Chitty Bang Bang. It was a thing, right? Education, welfare enforcement was a thing. And it was rounding up the sort of kids that initially boys, but then boys and girls, and literally putting them in a back, not necessarily with bars, but certainly a carriage, and taking them to school. And it was done through the strong arm of the law, because actually we didn't have, social care back then. We didn't have well, we kind of did have nursing, but anyway, public health was in its infancy. All of the structures that we've got now weren't there, and so the way to enforce things on the population was to threaten them with hanging and flogging them or removing their children, putting them in the workhouse or in this case a school. So I think any system that is relying on a mechanism which is rooted in children being rounded up and sort of and parents being threatened with prison because their child doesn't want to go, I think is entirely inappropriate for civil society in 2023. And I think we can do so much better than that. So I'm never going to let go of the fact that fines should even be a last resort. I think any system that maintains any sort of last resort that sits in the criminal justice system for mothers and fathers, no, I'm not having it. It's appalling.
The idea the kind of the rhetoric around it's not what it's intended to do is so much the rhetoric of, well, we didn't mean it. It's like that thing about intention doesn't reduce impact, and we're in that situation where if an individual hurt you and you told them that they'd hurt you, they either decide to not do that again, or they continue hurting you. And it feels like we're not being heard, and we don't mean to hurt you. Boof, boof, boof. It's like there comes a point when I think you're right. There's no place for it in civilized society whereby people are threatened with a criminal record, you know, because they have disabled children. What
Yeah.
now? You know,
I think as well, like, it's even things like, I mean, I think I only found this out recently, that the actual, you know, when you get that penalty fine, if that arrives on your doorstep, you don't have an automatic right of appeal with that, which is like worse than you have more right of appeal with a car parking ticket. And the complexity of attendance is so much greater than a car parking ticket. And I just think that is just, it almost silences parents, but it does silence parents, because to go and appeal that, you kind of have to not pay the fine and force yourself into court.
Yeah.
Which is terrifying. I don't think I would have done that without a lot of support. That's very frightening.
It's terrifying, but also, it's like I said earlier, it's about it distracts you then from what you actually need to be doing, which is supporting your child, because you're trying to do everything you can to support your child, to help them, you know, in whatever way you can, and then you potentially have to go and appear in court to go and fight your case, and it's just nothing. It's all, you know, everyone talks about it being child-centered, and it couldn't be further from the truth, I think. And just thinking as well about the fact that, you know, by the time a child's actually,
I think in a cost of living crisis.
Yeah, well, yeah, but like, you know, by the time a child can't actually get to school, those problems have been happening at home for weeks, months. You know, it's not like, you know, I think people might think, oh well, they're just a bit anxious, they're just keeping them off school. It's you know, it's got to the point that the anxiety actually is in control, and it's, you know, that the problems are too big to surmount for that child to be able to get into school. It's not a matter of just, oh, we'll just keep them off today, you know, just to make everything a little bit easier and a little bit less stressful.
Yeah,
it's
I think we're so seeing that and not finding school where it's not, you know, there might be a stereotypical view of that parent that is, you know, not bothered about their child attending school. We've sort of seen the Children's Commissioner do that, paint that picture in all sorts of different ways over the past year. It's from a campaign perspective, it's very interesting. From a personal human perspective, it's absolutely infuriating. But the latest one obviously being this, oh, well, parents are just working from home on a Friday and they just can't be bothered to send their children. I'm like, where's that come from? And actually what we're seeing in Not Finding School and everywhere across the groups is parents that are on waiting lists for CAMS, EHCPs. All of this stuff used to be a protectionary factor of, as in, I'm clearly engaging with services, I'm clearly waiting for help. That is no longer a protectionary factor. I can't actually believe we've got there. I really, like, it's just mind-boggling to me. And that it's just very angering, I think, when, you know, the Children's Commissioner comes out with that kind of... Sorry, go on.
No, I was just going to say also, like, the other bit that, you know, we're finding parents come to us with as well that's like really distressing is the fact that obviously we are in a cost of living crisis, and then that's going to, you know, give you a criminal order, and, you know, people are coming to us and saying, well, you know, if that happens, then that prevents me from being able to volunteer to what I've been doing previously, or, you know, that's going to affect my job or applying for a job. And it all comes down to the fact that, you know, these, like all of us, have been parents that are begging for help and support because that isn't there, or that doesn't come fast enough, or the understanding is you're then going to end up with a criminal record for something that actually you've acted everything you can to not get to that position. It's scary.
Yeah.
Can I answer that question from Jeannie in the chat?
Yeah, of course you can. I've just put it up on screen. So Jeannie asks, so why do some get fined and others don't? Our 14-year-old grandson, now struggling, school being supportive but threatening that it's only marked authorised for this week, and I wonder what happens next week.
Yeah, so the whole problem is there is a huge variation in practice. In other words, schools on the ground, local authorities on the ground, who are implementing and interpreting the guidance in a certain way, or they may have a very strict school policy that is actually in breach of all guidance, including Equality and Equality Act and Children and Families Act and all sorts. So one of the things that the DfE is trying to do is to standardise the system. So they're trying to bring out national standards in attendance They're trying to homogenize timeframes, and they're trying to make the system a lot more not equal but standard. In doing that, though, what's happening is what they're doing is they are sort of tightening all of the timelines. So at the moment, if you're in a supportive school, you may have a supportive school who are not in an Ofsted window, who are really focused on the best interests of their community, and who will go above and beyond. And that head will use his or her discretion to authorise the absence. And they will be able to demonstrate what they're doing with that child that's signed long-term ill. So they might be able to demonstrate that the family is in early help, the child is accessing secondary primary mental health care at school with an intervention from a local mental health charity. They might be able to demonstrate that they've put a youth worker or family support worker. So you're then getting a sort of really active, supportive response where the school actually is trying to do what it can and is comfortable with being able to demonstrate it to Ofsted. Because at the moment, the big push from Ofsted is attendance. So we've got a huge push nationally. You know, the Children's Commissioner has put this 100% attendance thing, ambition on the line. And so what's happened, and because schools now have a voluntary attendance dashboard, it is driving practice. You know, every single school in every single area is being measured against another statistical neighbour, and their local DFE advisor will give them a visit, or Ofsted will give them a visit, or the local authority will give them a visit, and they'll say, oh, your overall attendance is at 96.4. We want you to get up to 96.7 by the end of this term. And suddenly what you'll see is we're only going to keep being pragmatic and supportive for another 14 days. And after that, we've got to escalate. Now, when you speak to the DFE, they're like, no, they don't have to escalate. So long as schools are able to demonstrate that they are responding, that is what we ask them to do. So when I speak to the team at the DFE, they're just like, actually, things that could be offered might be a flexible timetable. Should a child, or a part-time timetable, but should a child be left on that part-time timetable long term with no one reviewing it? No, but any review of what's put in place should be done consensually in the best interest of the child and with the family. So any school that is starting to pull rugs out, it's because of Ofsted, Children's Commissioner, DFE, other parts of the DFE that are challenging. And let's not forget, within the DFE, we've got the wellbeing side of the DFE, those teams over there, and then we've got the behaviour, attendance, progress side, and the two really don't kind of talk, match. So I would say that practice is patchy. The government's Whitehall's attempt to try to standardise practice isn't actually helping. But we have one of the most fragmented education systems in the world, with maths and mainstreams and specials and independents, and so it's going to be patchy. Unfortunately, unfortunately, parents and children do really get trapped. But that's why organisations such as Not Fine in School and you, Heidi, those resources really are so important. At least to buy you some time. And I would say if somebody has a fine right now, or receives a notice letter, one of the best things you can do is respond in writing to it and call a meeting and sort of, don't ignore it. Do respond. Do start gathering your evidence. There are things that you can do.
Yeah. I think this is the key, isn't it? All this work that we're doing, like behind the scenes, trying to move the dial on it. We are painfully aware that there are families right now at the sharp end of that, and the likes of Not Fine in School, and my group, and like the resources that are out there through IPSI and other organisations, do tap into and lean into that support. That support that's available to you. I personally don't think there is anything that is better support or information for you as a parent going through this than other parents who have the lived experience of this, because they will have They will have been through exactly what you're going through, and they will know what did and didn't work for them. And often we'll have a bit of a, well, actually, if you use this bit of guidance and say this in your letter and ask your GP to do this, that will maybe get you that door kicked open. And it's all about knowing those workarounds, really, because we're all working within a system that is on its knees and not doing its job. So we're unfortunately having to pick up the slack there. But, you know, we're not playing down that we know that there are families right now that are waiting for CAMS. Their children are, you know, either they're in the process of being assessed for an EHCP, or they're fighting to get an EHCP, or they're in tribunal because their EHCP is not sufficient and they're waiting 11 months for a tribunal date. We know this. And this is why we're pushing so hard, particularly on attendance fines, because the last thing you need when you've got a child who's into a multi-parent school, maybe one or both parents, if you're a double parent household, have had to give up work, you've got a child who's unwell at home, you're trying to get social care support, you're trying to get respite, you're trying to get an EHCP through, you're going through the tribunal process. The last thing you want is to be in court to be fined for your child not going to school. The very last thing. And that's why we're pushing so hard on this. And there is a fix in here. I think, although we are talking about this in really bleak terms, and we don't want to play down how difficult this is for families at the sharp edge of this, there is a fix. And the 3 asks, or any one of the 3 asks, so entry laws, code of practice, an attendance code of practice, or a new code for mental health under illness, would give us some proper leverage. If we had a code for attendance that was mental health, we would have all that data about how many children are not able to attend school because of mental health. That would shift the dial considerably, because we would then have, well, these kids aren't ghost children, these kids are unwell children, you know, and then we could leverage the Equality Act. So, you know, I think it's just really important that we recognise that we know that for many families, this is a really difficult time, and we're doing what we can, and as a community, we will make a difference. But they cannot ignore us. I don't know if you can see on screen, we are 4 signatures off 250,000. 4 signatures. If you are watching this and you haven't signed yet, please sign it. It's driving me mad. I feel like I need to log in under a different name, just put my name on it. I'm not gonna.
Shall I burst Heidi's bubble?
Why is it already gone past?
No, it's 245,000, not 250,000. So it's amazing.
It is 245,000. You're right.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
I know. I've been looking at it, going 250, and then it was like, oh,
No,
but still 245. What a lovely round number.
That's my dyscalculia playing into the. Yeah, I've been going 250.
I did the same. I did the same on Twitter the other day. I was like, so close to 250, and I was like, oh, hang on. But
We'll
yeah,
take
245,
right? We'll take.
And I'm so funny about numbers. I need it to be 245.
It's like literally it's a breath away from 4.
Yeah. So to recap, if you want to come and join us in London on Tuesday, we would love to have you. Come and say hi. Oh my God, I'll try not to be coughing up a lung by then. Oh yeah, I can see the chat now, the private chat. Oh, it's 245,000. Oh yeah, so it is. It's not 250. Duh. The future of attendance is in our hands. You're all screwed. So yeah, if you want to come and join us in London on Tuesday, we would love to have you. Details are on the event. If you just go to the event page, which is in the top of the comments, and it's also, I'll put in the description of the video. Come and see us. If you're not able to be in London, jump on your email and follow that email trail for emailing Rishi and the Secretary for Education and your MP on Tuesday at 1:00. Then we will get you out the template so that you can do a follow-up of, look at all this press that they've had. Look, they thought they were going to get 250,000, but they've still got 245. Isn't that really good? And I think if we can just keep moving it, I feel really positive. Do you want to do a sum up, Maddie and Susan, of what you think will happen next and what you hope will happen next?
So
yeah, I think just like we were saying, like, you know, well, we're both going to talk now.
No, go for it.
No, I was just going to say, like, raising the awareness of obviously what we're doing. And I think, you know, we've discussed before that it's brilliant when you're in this community, in this area, it's very well known, but hopefully with some of the press that we're going to have there, it's going to open this up to people that aren't aware of what's happening, or that this is the situation that goes on for many families. And hopefully it will be something that we will continue to campaign, raise awareness, and be collecting them signatures to 250,000.
Yeah, it's always been.
Yeah, we'll have the 4 for now, and then we'll push for the extra 5,000 by the end of next week. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Amazing. I think from day one of the petition, it's always been about a central aim of it. It's been about visibility, because I think that is something that we as parents both felt invisible. Parents always say it, they don't feel listened to, and it feels like a lot of issues to do with kind of SEND and education, and there's a lot of issues, and they just feel very like hidden away. Like you talk to kind of a lay person or whatever, or someone that's not in that world, and like they've got no idea. And I think that would be to have the buzz around Tuesday, and then even if Tuesday achieves visibility and more people know about what is going on that didn't before, that will be a massive win and a massive gain for our entire community, because it's sort of like it lifts everyone basically. And then there'll be more activity that doesn't come from us, that comes from other activists, and it will just build. So for me, it's part of a really cool jigsaw. But yeah, so it's exciting, and then it will continue, and we'll plan whatever activity is going to come next after that as well. But yeah, visibility for Tuesday, I think.
Yeah,
I just love the Maddie and Susan dynamic duo. It's like this, you kind of found each other and created this energy and intention and commitment, and it's just bloody brilliant. I love you. I think it's great.
Yeah,
thank you. Well, it's amazing to work with you guys.
Never going to give me.
Never what?
Like,
get rid of
that's
me.
It. That's my Susan. Yeah, that's it. You can't get rid of me now.
Yeah, no, and it's great. Working with you guys as well it's the energy of it, and is exciting, and it feels like that galvanizing type of energy. I love it. I'm here for it. I love it. Let's go touch the gates.
I think we all do that. We kind of bring to each other, where we sort of all have our ups and downs and wobbles, and then we pull back in together, and we just make each other feel stronger and carry on, and hopefully that's filtering down to other parents just to see. And what's Ellie showing us?
Is it reversed? Can you see it?
No, I can see it. How do you know? How do you know if you're making a difference?
Yeah.
So do you know?
This is a practical handbook for public service organisations, and I thought I'm gonna order this thing, because if they really need to sort of check whether they know if they're making a difference, I'm just like, do you know what you'd have? How do I know if I'm making a difference? Well, less children falling out of education and into CAMS is quite a good measure, isn't it? Less angry people on the streets processing to Downing Street, that's quite a good measure. But anyway, I thought I'd order it for a bit of, like, my 20-year-old used to work in television self. She would have rolled her eyes and tutted at this kind of literature. Is it gone?
Look at that!
We did it! Yay!
245,005 signatures. Amy Barnes, you were just the last one to sign. Thank you, everyone. Keep it coming. Now we're going to do 250 because we can't count. But yeah.
We got just under 72 hours to do 250. Come on, we can do it.
That's amazing. That's amazing.
But yeah, thank you all for your support with us as well. It's been great. We've learned so much from you and had that support round us, and we just got, that's it. I think you're all stuck with us forever now anyway. Susan can't get rid of me, and you can't get rid of both of us. So
do you know what's so funny? And like, I don't think I'm talking out of turn when I say that we've had our rocky moments as a collective, haven't we? You know, it's not all been butterflies and roses and farting unicorns. But I think this is like, if we can as parents who are all from very different, backgrounds and very different values bases and like very different experiences, but if we can come together on this one issue and we can do this, I'm really excited by what else we and other parents can do. And I did want to say, this is not like, although we're all here going, oh, we've done amazing, like, we're proud of what we've achieved, and we're very proud of Susan and Maddie and what they've achieved. And also, individual stories on the ground will make a difference. So if you are someone who is a bit of a gobshite and you want to speak to your local press about attendance, get on the phone to your local newspaper news desk and say, this petition's just gone to Downing Street and I've got a personal story about this, and get it in your local press, because that will also shift the dial, particularly at a local level. You know, your local MP does read the local newspapers, your local school principal does read the local newspapers, and that can make a real difference. And this isn't just like a thing that we're holding on to. This is something that everyone can be engaged in. And if that's something that appeals, I know for some people that would be their worst nightmare, but you know, this is not something that we own, and we would encourage you to get out there and do a bit of gate shaking as well. Yeah.
Definitely.
Yes.
Cool.
Yes.
Okay, amazing. I think we're going to wrap up. So what I was going to say was, and I'm not pimping myself necessarily, but if you are in a position where you need some support, there is some free resources around what to do when your child can't be in school on my website, HeidiMaver.com. And there's also some really excellent resources on the Not Fine in School website. So do get over there, and you know, you don't have to be facing this on your own. I know it feels like you're really overwhelmed and you don't know what to do, but if you've got questions, I can see a few questions in here where people are saying, what should I do about? Get in the Not Fine in School group, or get over to my website or over to the Not Fine in School website, and there's some signposting there for what you can do if you're in crisis right now.
Oh,
Yeah.
and also, if there's Contact a Family we link in with now, and their national helpline and listening ear service is free to call.
Okay.
And that the stories that are being shared there then get filtered in directly to the DFE, and shared with the third sector anonymously. But what I'm saying is, attendance has become a strategic priority for Contact a Family because of the numbers of families phoning that number, and because they're commissioned by the DFE and they're a strategic partner, the fact that you're phoning that number and it's about attendance, it's another sort of voice registered on an official helpline, if that makes sense. So it's another sort of resource point for families. But as importantly, your call is never wasted, in that you get the support, but actually the fact that you're a number of escalating with them gets reported into the DFE. And I think that's really important for families to know, that your voice there is being captured.
Yeah, for sure. So I've just put a link in for that, contact.org.uk, and it's their listening ear service. Amazing. Right. I will call it an afternoon, but I'll see you in the green room for post-show drinks, which basically means we'll all go in that little place and go, oh, right. Oh, my God, I feel like such an idiot. Oh, my God, could you see me? Can you hear me? And then, we'll do that. But for those of you who have joined us live, thank you so much.
Don't give away all the secrets.
If you're watching on replay and you made it to the end, thank you. Please give this a share. If you're watching live, please give this a share. If you haven't yet signed the petition, please go and do that, because we do want to get to 250,000. I'm so funny. Okay, so thanks everyone. We hope to see some of you in person on Tuesday, and if not, look out for the socials and we'll make sure that we live stream for you there. See you all later. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.